Call me old-fashioned, but I just think a movie should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. What is up, everybody? I am Darby Ellis Lewis Wilson, and I just watched James Gunn's new Superman movie this weekend, and I'm looking at reviews, seeing what people have to say about it, and y'all are divided. Everybody has very different opinions. Everyone seems to either love it or hate it. It's very divisive. And I think I know why. I think it's the beginning. I think it all has to do with the fact that the movie basically starts in the middle. It's like watching the season finale of a TV show that you missed the first few episodes of. Like, imagine watching Joss Whedon's Serenity movie without watching the first 14 episodes of the Firefly TV series, right? Yes, the movie is good, but I think you'd be pretty lost throughout. If you don't know, the movie starts off a way that I think you shouldn't start off a movie. It starts with just text on the screen. It does this thing where it says, like, 3,000 years ago this happened, then 30 years ago there were metahumans, then 3 months ago Superman moved to Metropolis, and 3 minutes ago he just got his ass whooped by Ultraman. And then the movie starts, and it starts with him in the snow. The dog comes and gets him. It's everything from the trailer. It starts right in the middle of the action. And you might say, but wait, Darby, Star Wars starts off like that. It starts off with text going across the screen telling you everything you need to know before the movie starts. But Star Wars is kind of the exception that proves the rule. I think a lot of movies that do text in the beginning to get you oriented generally don't do very well. I think someone can fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. I mean, if you got to do it, you got to go the Lord of the Rings route and actually have a narrator tell the audience what's going on. One, because it's much easier to just listen to someone tell you something while you do some sort of visual representation of what's going on. And also, if you're like me and kind of slow, you can't read all of that before it even starts, and so you are just still trying to catch up by the time all the pictures start, right? This whole beginning put me off kilter for the entire movie. And I think because of that, everything in it that seemed bad was just kind of a cascading failure of that beginning. So what they were trying to do, I think, was something called in medias res, which basically just means in the middle of things. It's something that happens a lot in epic poetry. They just get you right into the action. Things have already gone down. You're already in the middle of the battle, but they have to go back and tell you everything that happened before that in something like a flashback, or they have to relay this information to you in some way. And Superman does that, but they do it in kind of a really bad way. They do a lot of talking heads on the TV, a lot of TV and social media interviews, things like that. So there's a lot of telling and not showing in the movie. They give a lot of exposition. I can't remember the lines exactly, but there's a part where one of Lex Luthor's henchmen is telling him like where he graduated from and the accomplishments that he's made. Why would they do that? Lex knows. He knows the accomplishments he's gotten. It's purely for the audience. That might be okay in something low budget, like a low budget comic or cartoon or low budget film, where they don't have the money to show those things, so we've got to put it in dialogue. The cheapness of that shows, right? It comes off as campy. It comes off as weird. People don't talk like that. When you see that in like this high dollar summer blockbuster movie, it really comes off bad. It comes off as bad dialogue. And so that's what I mean by a cascading failure. It makes the bad things seem more prominent. You're off kilter from the beginning, you notice the bad dialogue, and then other bad things start sticking out, like maybe bad CGI, or the fact that there's a ton of CGI. You start noticing that the tone is off. The tone was all over the place in this movie. I may have not noticed that, or I may have sunk into it a little bit easier had I not already been scratching my head from the beginning. There's humor in there that seemed like it was in not good spots, and so while there were funny parts, there was a lot of humor that just didn't land. There's a scene in there where there's an argument taking place that should be pretty serious, but there's like all this mayhem going on in the background, and I got the sense that that should be a pretty funny part, but the entire movie theater was just dead silent, right? Because you're trying to understand the gravity of the argument that's taking place, and so you're ignoring like the funny thing happening in the background. And then when you reflect on that, you're like, why was that there? That didn't make any sense. Why would they choose to do that? Lex Luthor, he went from quirky, like video game playing villain to an irredeemably evil villain. And I don't know if I think that's the portrayal of Lex Luthor that I want, because I think that there's always been kind of a love-hate relationship between Lex Luthor and Superman. And Lex Luthor, at his heart, wants to do good for humanity, but the way they go about it in this, it seems like he's just an irredeemable bad guy. And so it's like, man, am I supposed to like him? Am I supposed to understand him? Am I supposed to think he's funny? Or am I supposed to think he's like a murderer and an abuser, and like there should be some question as to whether or not he should even remain alive? It's all over the place, and because of that, it makes it hard to latch on to anything in the movie. Like I'm really having a hard time figuring out what the theme of the movie was, right? Is it about the relationships that we form? Is it about inspiration versus fear, like you inspire people or you get people to fear you? Is it about social media? Is it about interventionism? Because Superman, he's like intervening in this war, and there's a question of, should he be doing that? Should he be meddling in the affairs of humanity? I know a big criticism of this movie, which I would also have, is that they took the tagline "Truth, Justice, and the American Way" and they changed it to "Truth, Justice, and the Human Way." And that seems like really betraying the American roots of the world's greatest and first superhero. But Superman is so powerful and he affects so many things other than America that, like, eventually in the comics, they have to address it. I think he eventually gets put on trial for slowing the evolution of humanity because he's solving all of their problems for them. Another theme is, do we have to carry on the legacy of our parents, or can we be our own person? But again, that's not fully fleshed out. Like, all of these things, they get a resolution, but I don't know if they get the best or the most satisfying resolutions. A lot of people are wondering, is this movie woke, right? They've taken away the truth, justice, and the American way. And again, you're seeing people from all sides saying, no, this movie isn't woke. Yes, this movie is absolutely woke. And what I would say is, no, it's not really woke. It is political, but since it's all over the place, it's hard to figure out what it is they're trying to say. So, for instance, is it woke? Well, I would say no, because it doesn't really hit on identity politics. I guess you could argue that there are some girl bosses in the movie, but on the other hand, the person who ultimately kind of winds up saving the day is a total womanizer. So, like, what are we supposed to take from that? Lex Luthor, he is basically a caricature of a conservative. He tells people that Superman is grooming them, right? That's a conservative buzzword that we like to use all the time. He hates Superman purely because he's an alien, not that he's an illegal alien, right? There's no context given to him. He just purely hates him because he's an alien and for no other reason. However, later in the movie, it sort of gets revealed that Lex Luthor is somewhat justified in being afraid of Superman. So take from that what you will, right? Anything that a person can pick, I think, to say that this movie is this way or that way, I think there's a counterpoint to that. I think you could really put onto the political portion whatever you want. Some problems with Superman is that Superman is extremely nerfed in this movie. It's really weird. They can't really decide his power level, how strong he's supposed to be. He's getting his ass kicked through the entire movie. He's not particularly smart, which, if I remember right, I mean, Superman is supposed to be super smart. He can like tell when people are lying because he can hear their heart beating. They really kind of make him pretty weak in this, which I think is absolutely okay if he's starting out. But if he's been Supermaning for a while, then he ought to have his good Superman powers by now. And the way the movie started leads us to believe that he's been Supermaning for a while. All that to say, the movie, I know I just spent all this time complaining about it and saying all the bad things about it, but I can also see why people would think the movie is good. I mean, it returns to the bright colored Superman. He's got his underwear on the outside. I don't care what anybody says. I'm here all day for underwear out Superman. Crypto the dog is awesome. I know some people think that's stupid, but hey, Crypto is from the comics, and if you don't like dogs, man, there's something wrong with you. There are triumphant moments. I think a lot of heart was put into this movie. I think the people that made it, I think James Gunn really did care about this, and I think that you can see the hard work that was put into it and that there was care put into the movie. I think a lot of the actors are great. I think Nicholas Hoult does great. I love him in every role that he takes on. They expand the mythos. There's a lot of good things about this movie. The big question is, would I go watch it again? Well, I don't know if I would go and watch it in the theater again, but I would definitely sit down and watch the movie again to see if there's something that I missed. Like I said, I was totally thrown off balance by the beginning and felt like I was playing catch up the entire time. And so I would totally see it again to see if I emotionally connect with the movie a little bit more. And if what I say, the tone being all over the place, if I can settle into that a little bit more. And the thing is it's weird to say, but I don't think the movie was made for me. I'm a 40-year-old man. I have these conventions in my head of how story structure should go and what the pacing of a movie should be. And I think that this movie was really made, it was made to give us a Superman for Gen Z. And what I mean is, like, if you look at him when he's Clark Kent, he has like the floofy, curly, like Gen Z hair. Watching the movie, it's really kind of like scrolling through TikTok videos of a Superman movie where it's like, it's this scene, and now it's this scene, and now it's this thing, and now we're doing this, and now we're that. Like, it's really kind of for that attention span because, yeah, the movie is, I think it's 2 hours long, but they go through a lot of stuff. But I think the key element that they're missing that could have been done better, that would have maybe united people a little bit more around this movie, is if they would have given us a solid intro, if they would have spoken it out loud, if they would have done it in narration and given us some visuals as to what they're talking about, like when metahumans came to Earth or whatever. I think that would have oriented the audience more to where everything wasn't just so jarring for the rest of the movie. But what do I know? Is Superman missing some key storytelling elements, or am I just too old to get it? Let me know in the comments. I'm gonna go eat some Chipotle, and we will see you next time. Schlock on, guys.